Attention, bobsled riders! You will soon be embarking on a thrilling podcast down the icy slopes of the Matterhorn. So please remain seated, keeping your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the bobsled at all times. Auf Wiedersehen! Hello, yodelers! We are the Matterhorn Yodelers. I am your host today, Peter, with my co-host,
Jackie
and
Japheth.
And today we are going to be going back to the Pixar realm and discussing a possible theory, a Pixar theory.
There are so many theories when it comes to Pixar. It's pretty crazy.
Yes, absolutely. And we've kind of briefly mentioned this in passing in several episodes. We talked about the Easter egg in Pixar. I think we even talked about it when we ranked our favorite Pixar movies. And so we figured it's time to go into the deep end of the Pixar theory, which it's funny though. I knew a lot because I'm consumed by this media, but you guys have just barely dabbled into it. And so like when you guys jumped into it, what was your initial like thought process?
That's a stretch. That's my old camera.
I thought it was like, wow, that's really creative. And
Yeah.
like how they did that. I was like, that's very... And then I started watching the newer ones and I was like, oh my gosh. And then I took my Mickey Mouse hat and I covered it in tinfoil and I'm all like, I'm in, guys.
Right? It gets kind of intense at moments. Some of it's all like, oh yeah, there's a Jessie doll that it's connected, but no, it's a very elaborate, deep end sort of.
Those Easter eggs are the reason why this theory
Correct.
really exists.
Yeah, that's how it started, was fans really overlooked at these Easter eggs and created a theory.
So the original person who published something related to the Pixar theory was a John Negroni. He has since then released a book on this subject matter called The Pixar Theory. And so, and obviously everyone has their own interpretation of what the Pixar theory. I think for the most part, a lot of our discussion will be centered around the Super Carlin brothers.
Their YouTube channel. They've got quite a following.
Yes,
and they do a really good job.
Yes, they go into deep into theories for like Harry Potter and Marvel, and they go into all that nerdum theories and all that stuff. So they did a fantastic job of kind of laying it out. But we're gonna start things off. I mean, technically, you could say things start with Soul. But we're not going to go that deep because that when you get into soul, that's that whole concept of what a soul is and who gets a soul, it gets super complicated.
And you deal with time.
Right.
And non-time areas.
Right. And so I would say...
So that made sense when I said that, right?
Right. Time and not time. Yes. So we're going to be kind of going over kind of the Cliff Notes version of the Pixar theory. If you want to go into more detail, there's lots of material that truly explain all of the nitty-gritty and the craziness and the metaphysical, mental, whatever you want to call it, realm that connects it all. So we're going to start things off with The Good Dinosaur, where you would think,
right?
A movie about dinosaurs, that tends to be where you would think.
Dinosaurs and humans.
Yeah.
Right. So basically, the idea is that the asteroid missed Earth.
So that opening sequence, it's like...
Right. Mm-hmm. The asteroid missed Earth, which allowed the dinosaurs to survive and be there around the same time as well as humans, and allow these animals to develop their own thinking thought processes to kind of evolve mentally.
They become agrarian societies. Right.
So you get kind of the rise in the mental thought processes of animals through this. You got the agrarian societies, you got the T-Rexes that are cattle herders and things like that. Eventually, obviously, the dinosaurs do die out.
Because like crazy storms and
right,
stuff.
The weather eventually gets to them.
I think it's the Watcher.
The Watcher.
Yeah.
Okay.
The theory is that the lamp is the Watcher.
Oh,
okay.
Again, I went into the comment section and somebody says, like, the lamp's the watcher. And I was like, oh my gosh, the lamp is the watcher. It's always there. It, like, looks up and it's like, I'm here, guys. Lights on. No, but you're like, oh my gosh.
Again, this stuff gets really crazy here. So, yeah, that just kind of sets the groundwork for why this Pixar world is different than our world that we currently live in. So then we kind of transition into Brave.
Yep.
And this is kind of where the theory kind of starts, for the most part, I would say.
I think it keeps it all together.
Right. Brave is probably the most... There are two movies, the integral part of the Pixar theory, and that would be Brave and Monsters, Inc., which obviously we'll get to why. So Brave, you've got the typical story for Brave. You've seen it. You've got people that transform into bears. You've got the witch.
Magic.
You got magic.
Mm-hmm.
That's what this introduces. Magic is introduced into the realm. That allows for the transformation from one species to another, which you will see as we progress through will be a common theme through many movies. And we're going to be cycling back to Brave later on. Yes.
The whole theory cycles.
It cycles. Then we kind of jump ahead to The Incredibles. So we're like in the 1950s, 1960s era where we get Syndrome creates the Omnidroid and creates AI, which brings about the rise of
artificial intelligence and computer thinking.
Right. And so, it's able to learn on its own. And, obviously it goes about trying to destroy everything, learning from its enemies, and growing in that sense. Obviously, the superheroes come into play here. I'm not going to go into too much detail about superheroes. That's another rabbit hole about genetic, unless you want to talk about it.
I have one thing.
Go for it.
So there was this theory. I don't think this is like related to the original Pixar theory, but like how Jack disappears for like a couple seconds.
Oh, good. I want to hear this.
Yeah, let's go.
So he disappears and you're like, where did he go? So there's this theory goes that he jumps into a different area, which is Monsters University or time, and he's one of the monsters. So you remember the interview? They were interviewing the monsters, like when a human was found in the restaurant.
I tried to run from it, but it picked me up with its mind powers and shook me like a doll. It's true! I saw the whole thing!
And there was like, I saw it was shooting laser beams with my eyes, and it was like...
Shook me like a dog.
It shook me like a dog, because like, it was like having him float and stuff, and people think that's Jack.
Whoa.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Because, as we talk, their worlds connect.
Right.
At one point. So we'll get into that later, but...
That is interesting. Whoa. I haven't heard that one. That's really good.
I like that.
That's good.
My tinfoil hat is tingling right now. My ears. Electromagnetism right now.
So, yeah. So, we've got the basis for that. Then we go... Then we kind of go into kind of like you can kind of say our own kind of modern era, and this kind of sets the groundwork for the future. You still got animals, still intelligent. You've got Bug's Life. You got Finding Nemo.
You get Inside Out.
Yes, Ratatouille. The one thing with Finding Nemo is that's kind of the first indication that you see that the planet is becoming polluted with garbage and trash. So yes, that's kind of the first indication there. Then we get into, Ratatouille. You've got rats that know how to cook. And then you get Up, where you got dogs who know how to cook and know how to fly airplanes. Like,
Master!
You get some intelligent animals there. But most importantly in Up, we get introduced to By and Large. and they play an integral part because, by and large, is kind of the driving force that pushes us into when the machines take over.
Kind of joke, like, I remember when it first came out, we were like, oh, it's totally Walmart. Now it's all like, it's totally Amazon. It's totally Amazon.
Totally Amazon. Oh yeah. And so the idea, you're saying like by and large is in Wall-E, it's not an Up. It is an Up because they're the ones who are trying to buy Carl's house.
Yeah.
In the movie. So that's when you were introduced to them, is there.
And you'll see other little, like, Easter eggs planted as well.
But then we get into the Toy Story. Toy Story is a part of this. This is where we learn how, and again, we're going, this starts getting tinfoil-y here, definitely, okay?
But again, this is an alternate universe that's based, like, on how our world is.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. Our reality. Our dimension.
So basically, in Toy Story, you see that these items gain sentience through human connection. So this is where we draw a connection that humans are somehow a form of a battery.
They're a power source.
A power source that brings non-living things to life. Which we kind of get into in a little bit.
Like, example, like...
The Matrix.
Someone scream. Like, in Monsters, Inc., a child scream brought energy.
Right. And we'll get into that because that is another basis for this whole thing. So, yes, that's where we kind of gain that concept of humans giving life to toys. Then we kind of get into Wall-E. Okay, this is where things go. This is where things take the drastic change because we know in the story of Wall-E, the Earth gets unlivable, so all the humans leave and get on the spaceship, being controlled by
AI.
Mm-hmm.
What was the robot's name?
It's the Easter egg.
It's the A113.
Yeah.
And so Pilot. That's the name. A113
is the code.
It's the directive to stop. Isn't that the directive to stop to come back to Earth?
I think so.
I think that's what that is. So yeah, the AI's directive is to make sure that humans do not come back to Earth. That they are in control of human life.
Because they need them for the power source.
Correct.
Without them, they will eventually lose their power.
Correct. And so that's where you get that battle between machine and man in that movie.
I got tingles up my arm.
Right?
Then Sarah Connor comes from the Terminator.
So while all the humans left, there was no humans on the Earth, this would be the time period when Cars takes place.
You're like, how does that work?
Yeah.
Right? That's the big control. Like, for me, it's all like, the Cars is like, I have to go back. I can't. I'm not glossing over this too easily.
Yeah, so that's where I get lost in the story. Because, humans leave, but, like, in Wall-E, there's, like, piles of trash and whatnot. And you're just like, but...
Does all the trash come to life?
So you also have to take a look from this. Cars does not take place at the same time as Wall-E.
No.
Wall-E is after the Cars world has ended.
You've got 700 years.
Gotcha.
During that period.
So, like, it's not just the humans that left the world of trash. It's also the Cars.
Because obviously not all the humans left on the ship.
I think they did.
Yeah, they did.
Because it was uninhabitable. Like, there was no more food or anything, and they just like, all right, we're taking you off. Which I think is very nice of this company to take everybody off.
Right.
I don't think our universe, our dimension would have that aspect.
Yeah, I don't think a company would be like, oh, let me
see. You got $100,000? Yeah, we'll take you up into subspace. That's about it.
Right. And so, and the one thing that's like, well, I don't know if Cars really fits in. How do you know it's the same world? Well, they point out in Cars 3 that they mentioned crabs.
Crabs is this, like, revolving
Yes.
thing throughout. They kept bringing up like, and there's crabs, and they're just like, it's obsessive about
Yes.
the crabs.
So basically, crabs is the thing that crabs have survived through
Correct.
all
And you
things.
get that first idea, they showed the clip in, I think, Finding Dory, where all the crabs are hiding in the trash.
Yeah.
That they're able to adapt and survive in the garbage.
They're the anchor for the whole theory, like, it's all connected.
Right.
In the sense of, like...
Keeping cars as part of it,
Yeah.
for sure. And so the idea behind how cars gain their sentience kind of goes back to Toy Story 4. They say that this is, the whole basis of humans give inanimate objects life. Well, Toy Story 4...
through their memories, and like
Right.
it's a transference of personality to object.
Right.
Because we have this power, magic.
Right. And I know this sounds absolutely crazy, and it is.
So you just gotta play. This is not our world.
Right.
It's based off our world with new rules.
Right. And so you've got Woody, who no longer has an owner and is a separate entity on its own. And so they kind of reference this Woody as being the first quote-unquote car, being not needing an owner to survive and be alive.
It actually explains cars a lot better.
Yes.
Because you're like, oh, I got this car's lit, and then it's kind of cute and stuff, and then you're just all like, where's the drivers? And like,
Right. And so, and the idea behind the cars and the people that they represent are its former drivers. All the cars in the Cars world are their former owners. And obviously, there's a lot of connection and memories that are associated with cars and travel and things like that. The idea that Lightning McQueen was an actual person exists in, I think, Finding Dory. Somebody has a Lightning McQueen Band-Aid.
yes.
They
So
point
it
that
establishes the time of where it is.
Right.
With like the owner, and then explains how newer, faster cars come in
Later on
in like Cars 3.
So like the Cars world kind of happens at the same pace as humans' life as well. So as people got older, so did the cars, and as things moved along, the newer, updated vehicles became a new prominent feature till eventually we get into an energy crisis, and eventually...
The energy crisis is always there. That's a reoccurring theme, and that kind of explains like where it goes away, and you're just left with Wally World.
Right. And so eventually everything collapses and turns into a dead planet. And they talk about how one of the reasons why they feel the Earth is all brown and yucky in Wall-E is because people forgot about Earth.
Yep.
And
it doesn't have that human energy that gives it
Correct.
life.
Correct. And so...
Or living life.
Right.
Because there were dinosaurs before humans.
Yeah.
And it was alive. So it needs that, probably that organic, like, carbon-based life.
Because, like, you go back and watch Wall-E.
Yeah.
You go back and watch Wall-E. The captain, he didn't even understand what Earth was.
Yeah.
So, like, it's, he had to watch it from a computer. And to learn everything about it. And
I love the line where he's all like, we plant this and we get pizza.
This is called farming. You kids are going to grow all kinds of plants. Vegetable plants, pizza plants.
I wish it was that easy.
And so they eventually overcome the AI and come back to Earth. And it's at that point that you see that life is actually starting to come back, is when the humans come back to the Earth.
So here, I read this in the comment section, so this is extra
Oh,
staticky.
okay.
All right.
So you talked about the color of the Earth.
Yes.
And so I read in the comment section because there's Inside Out. You know how memories have colors?
And they fade when they're forgotten.
They're fading when they're forgotten, and so that's one aspect. But somebody commented that, that the Earth is blue and green. What are the emotions of
Sadness and disgust.
Yes. So somebody did that, and I was like, that is amazing. Yes.
That makes sense.
And I was
that,
all
that
like,
explains the history of the earth. Sadness and disgust. Ugh.
and then when we're gone, it just dies off in despair. So yeah, I thought I was like, oh, perfect. I can talk about this. And I'm just thinking of like Men in Black where they're playing marbles.
Right. Right. I remember that cutscene. Yeah. So yes. So man comes back and they come back to Earth and they start to heal the Earth, right? But man has kind of evolved over the hundreds of years that it's been pampered to its state, and so it doesn't necessarily. They don't return back to the way humans were that we know now. They eventually evolve into the monsters.
Monsters, yeah.
They evolve into monsters. And if you have questions about like how different monsters have different abilities, you can go back to The Incredibles and how people had superpowers.
So they're saying like that change is there from the superpowers. I mean, because you mentioned Jack Jack.
Yeah.
And so like maybe there were more Jack Jack type that survived this new planet. And also there's the toxins and the pollution that's
Right.
still there, and
That
it caused like a
caused
Teenage Mutant
mutation.
Ninja Turtle kind of like,
Absolutely.
you know, they're babies, babies.
I
Sorry,
just watched that movie.
That's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle 2 reference.
Yes.
I just remember my
90s
friend.
version?
Yes, I remember my friends Bruce and Spencer always doing that. Bruce would always go like, "Mama."
Yeah. Oh yeah. And so yes, and so the monsters, they're in this society and they have a problem, an energy problem. And so, but they've learned that human energy is the source of power, but they've kind of evolved past.
They're not
being
humans anymore.
Yeah.
So they can't do it themselves. So through the power of magic, they're able to. This is where you get really weird. We get time travel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like, is it technology that's caused it? Where like where machines need the monsters for this power? Maybe are they working together? We don't know.
It could be. I mean, obviously, it doesn't ever clearly state.
That's
like,
where I
how they
go.
make the
That's
door.
a stretch.
But I mean, it's over time, and like these guys were in space for 700-800 years.
Imagine how AI has evolved.
It's running its
Yeah.
cycles and doing theories, and
I mean, who would have thought in the 80s that we would have the internet? I mean, heck, even Star Trek couldn't predict the internet.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you never know how much time will pass. So we'll assume that it's some form of technology, and that's why it's in this giant factory on how to make doors and all that stuff.
It's monsters are opening doors and
Yeah.
scaring kids for power. And you're like, why is that? Like, oh, they give us power. And it's like, it makes sense of like why kids are scared, but then it's all like, but why are the monsters doing it? And we're like, I'm bored. Let's just scare some kids, like.
Right.
So do you know who Andy's monster was?
Oh, I've seen there's a bunch of these
there's
like
a video.
It's Randall.
Randall is
Randall is Andy's monster because there was a scene in Monsters Inc. where Randall was like practicing, and one of the scenes was Andy's
The
wallpaper.
clouds.
The clouds.
I was like, oh, poor Andy.
It's a scary monster.
So then we've got the worm where, they're scaring people. And the way they've kind of explained it is that they're not in control of what time they go to. They're kind of running parallel with time, with a different time.
Yeah.
And so they're running parallel. So at the time of Monsters, Inc., they're in that 50s, 60s range, the same time as The Incredibles. And that's where...
That's where Boo comes in.
Yes, but I'll get there in a
Oh.
second. I'm going to talk about Incredibles 2 here for a second. Okay? Because then you get the whole explanation of the screenslaver, right? And talking about how, like, people have become desensitized to screens and people are consumed by this media, which also goes down that whole rabbit hole with AI and taking over by pampering us. But that is referenced in Monsters, Inc. with their little intro video where they're like, children are desensitized by their television screens. And so, like, that you can tell, like, that's the same time frame. And so they find that Scream, that the fear is being hidden away, desensitized, and now joy becomes a more prevalent emotion or memory in society from that point
And that's
going
that
forward.
energy, coming right there, or that transference of personality.
Right.
Inside Out has those kind of power bulbs too, and like,
Right. When we talk about Inside Out, that talks about the importance, like they talk about with Riley. If you look at Riley's memories, they're all yellow. You don't see a lot of blue or red or anything in there. It's only until she gets older that the memories start mixing, and that's why they only scare children, because children's memories are
Simpler.
a lot simpler than adults.
Yeah.
And so then we get into Boo. Boo comes into the picture, and she and Sully, form a lifelong friendship.
Kitty.
At the least, it's a
Right.
it's a relationship of time.
Yeah.
Right.
With
So
this theory.
the reason why Boo is probably the most important human in this whole thing is because it ties all the way back to Brave. And you ask, how does that work?
How does Boo in the 1950s connect to a witch with a bunch of bears
And,
Right.
like,
in
the-
Scotland
yeah.
in the like Dark Ages?
Yeah.
So, Boo obviously I wouldn't say falls in love, but loves Sully.
Yeah.
He's his friend from the closet.
Yeah.
And
Kitty.
this becomes a driving force in her life to find him again. Because she tries to go back, but the door's closed.
Well, I'm sure anytime she mentions it, people are like, okay, Boo.
Right. And so she learns the secrets of how to use doors to travel through time. But when she used the door, she got sent back in time, not forward in time.
Yeah.
And so that's how she got stuck at the time of Brave. And so the old witch, who has a magic door,
It's true.
She
And
has
she
a
disappears.
Yep. She's got a magic door that changes when you go through it, is Boo from Monsters, Inc.
And people say that because there's a lot of statues of
bears.
bears.
There's actually a carving of Sully
Yeah.
in there, as well as a Pizza Planet truck. Which, how would the witch know what a Pizza Planet truck was unless she was from the future?
Yeah, it's interesting. Those Easter eggs feed this theory. It's,
Oh,
it's
totally.
like, oh, it's cute. We'll put it in our little like Easter eggs, and people are like, it all means something.
And so in general, that's kind of what the Pixar theory is about. It's literally about Boo's journey to find Sully.
And so the next question is like, why? And that feeds the later aspects
When you add
of it.
Coco
Phase 2 of
of the
Pixar theory.
And so that's where Coco and Soul kind of
You're
come
like,
in. And
why
it gets
does
like,
the Day of the
whoa.
Dead really make sense of this?
Right.
And I think it really enhances it.
You have a...
I
thoughts
have
on
some
that?
like as you see in Coco, there's the Day of Dead. You put the
Yeah.
picture up and you remember. And to go back, what during the theory they talk about the theme of Pixar films, and this is the quote. Is basically humans are power, and we talk about that. The films are to actively remember those who come before you, to look back as a guide to the future. It's a reoccurring theme in these movies. Those who are not forgotten are not really gone. And that human memories keep things alive. There's power behind it. And that's driving Boo to search for Sully and to go back in an endless loop. And you're like, why does she need to go back and keep trying to remember Sully? And it's because of Coco. Because remember the older or the what was it? Hernando, is that his name?
Ernesto
is he needed the guitar, and he goes to his friend, and he felt like his bones were getting darker, and he was sitting in the...
Oh, no, sorry. You're Ernesto's the bad guy.
Yeah.
I just watched this, too.
So the dad, the Coco's dad, has to get the
Miguel's
guitar,
dad,
and he
yeah.
goes, and he meets an old friend.
Hector.
Yeah, Hector meets an old friend, and play guitar, and he plays, like, the one song... the Dying Wish.
Everyone knows Juanita.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, and you see him fade because he's been forgotten, and it feeds this overall theme right here. And so there's this, like, there's death, and then there's second death. And that's what Boo is trying to prevent happen, is the second death of Sully. And so that allows to keep him alive. And... it kind of like gives the why to why Boo is going. Besides saying like I want to see, it's to prevent that second death and to to keep him just like I said to use as a guide and to not be forgotten, and he'll always be there. And then you'll be like, well, what about Soul? And I'm like, well, it's kind of funny how they explain. It's like, well, what you believe kind of goes into the next life.
Right.
Yeah.
And so they're not like a right way of like a heaven or an afterlife. And so
there's several different paths, kind of like in the Marvel universe. There's different heavens there,
yeah,
depending on your life, and
you probably see that in the new Thor movie where there's different gods and different.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so they say Soul, gets into like, hey, it's not just in the Mexican belief because, if it was just. They were like, why is this one pop star in Mexico like this grand place? It's like there's other more popular people that would be remembered.
Right.
And so they kind of explain like it's based on the personal beliefs. And so that's how Soul gets in there. What else have we got going on there?
I mean, Onward was a fun one.
That's a fun one.
Onward's connection is fun because it doesn't take place on Earth. It takes place on another planet. It's evident with the moons. There's more than one moon.
That's the big giveaway.
There's more than one moon, so it's obviously not Earth. And it says, well, how does this connect? Well, there was more than one ship that left Earth when Wall-E happened.
So you see the Axiom, shadow crashed into the mountain.
Well, it
background.
became the mountain.
It became the mountain.
Onward?
Onward. So the mountain that they go to is actually in another Axiom ship that crashed.
And it's the Phoenix, and like the AI pretty much, like it only has the knowledge of like the limit of this world, which is what you're seeing.
Right.
And so they figure this is the way you go there for knowledge to learn of like how to survive. And so they built a world off of the limits of
Earth.
Gotcha.
By and large before they went to bat.
They mutated into monsters.
Their own monsters too, because they were humans with that capability.
But no humans survived that crash. They made a point to say that. No humans survived that
so they didn't start. So it's like they're already existing.
Yeah, there were already other creatures there. They crashed.
So it's like 2001, the monkeys were fighting with stones, and then they went into the crash axiom, and the computer was still working.
They make it a point to point out that magic was always a part of their world.
That's true.
And it wasn't until like later, it's like all of a sudden, like, oh, we've got electricity now, and they're learning that because
and they lost it. Yeah, that magic.
Gotcha.
So that was that connection.
The master of belief and memory. Okay. And then there's the Turning Red.
Turning Red, yes. That kind of feeds into the theory for the humans turning into monsters.
Yes.
Aspect of
that was already there.
It's part of your DNA.
It beats it solidifies the Incredibles aspect of the theory.
Yeah.
And then it adds the part where Abby, the friend.
Abby's the friend, yes.
Is actually Boo's daughter.
Right.
And that she saw what happened, and she would get a closer connection to the mother and ask questions about, like, how does this magic work? And that got the ball rolling for this interdimensional like time travel kind of like.
So you think like Boo grew up, had a family, and then she was like, I'm bouncing, like...
She would be 40 years old about the time when... Because they looked at the paintings on the wall, like, and they're like, it was about 1959, so she was born in 55. She could have had Abby, in the 80s, in her, like, mid-30s, and Abby would be in that 90s time range.
Right.
So it kind of fits that it could be her daughter, and the other theory with it is that Abby's clothing matches Boo's door.
Yeah.
And so I got that and I was like, what? And I sent you a text in the morning. I was like, this thing's deep. It's getting me. It just sucks you in.
Maybe she made her dress like that in case Sully came through the door.
Maybe it's a call sign or something like that. I
Maybe.
don't know. We don't know enough about Abby's character.
We're just making up things.
We're just pulling here and there. But that one was like, whoa. And then Luca just came out like recently.
Yes. Lucas kind of has a definite location in the theory as of yet. People have different points as to where it might fit.
Yeah, there's the two options. And
right.
Do you know those two options?
One is where it's a banished monster.
Yeah.
And they had a family, and they have their own family of monsters.
They're scared of humans.
Right.
And that's why they're like, don't touch them, they'll do you harm.
Right.
And we saw the Yeti get banned.
Yeah.
And monsters. So we know that they could travel to those. And the other one is that monsters have superpowers and the incredible timeline and that like changing form with Jack. That kind of like forms that humans can switch in between, they can change their form.
Right.
Yeah.
X-Men style. You see Professor Xavier come out on his scooter. Welcome, Luca, would you like to join my school? That's where they're going.
Oh.
They're bringing the X-Men.
Oh my goodness.
Wolverine's in the bar right there smoking.
And then Boba Fett's arm reaches out from the sand.
Two suns, or two moons.
Two moons.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Was that Tatooine before? No.
Maybe it's it could be before the Axiom crashed. It was in a galaxy far, far away a long time ago.
Boom, there we go.
They're connected now.
Yep.
We did it, guys.
We've connected it all.
We've connected Pixar to Star Wars.
And Marvel.
And Marvel.
You're welcome, fans.
Chew on that for a while. Just chew on that one for a while.
I'm pretty sure that's been spit out real quick.
Oh, yeah.
That was bitter and sour. No, thank you.
The only one really haven't really talked about would be the newest one, which is Lightyear. We're not really going to go into that because it's relatively new, so we don't want to get into spoilers of that. But the way I take it, it's in the intro. It just says, "This is the movie Andy watched."
It's clear and cut.
It's simple.
That's what
Don't
it is.
overcomplicate it.
Please don't. I've heard people overcomplicate this thing and make it way more than what it needs to be. Just accept it
as
as
opposed
a
to
movie.
the other things that we've talked about today. Animals have been, able to cook and that's,
Well, what they've kind of pointed out is that basically they've put in this escape clause for the theory that if there's ever a Pixar movie that doesn't fit, they can just be like, well, it was a movie in the universe.
Oh, isn't that convenient?
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, nah, just don't go down that road. It's just accept it. It's just a movie that Andy watched.
Yeah.
And so on and so forth.
Disney said, it clearly states it, so just don't overthink it.
Yeah, and, we talk about this and it's easy to want to watch the movies and fall in love with this.
Yes.
And I went to a D23 convention and I got to see a panel of the directors. There's 4 or 5 directors that were in multiple
This is
movies.
prime Pixar.
Yeah.
Years.
Lasseter's still there and they were
I mean,
Inside
you
Out was
probably
just
saw
out.
Pete Davis, or was that his name? No,
Not Pete.
No, not Pete Davis.
Pete Doctor.
Yeah, Pete Doctor was probably there.
I don't remember, but Mother Yoder and I went to this and they talked, and Pixar Theory was really just coming out a couple years prior to this,
right.
And YouTube hadn't really taken off
Yeah.
just yet. And I remember someone asking, "Is like, oh, you have all these Easter eggs. Are they all part of like one universe?" And the directors have said, like, there is no active, like purpose or like person trying to interconnect everything. They're just cute things we'd like to put in there. So they've said like it's not a connection.
It's not a thing.
And so with that thought, like as you're watching this, you're like, it all makes sense. It all connects. It's like we do this and we see this now in our own society where we take events and we see very similar points and we come to the conclusion like it's this, and it's like we call those conspiracy theories, you know. So it's one of those things.
This is a
conspiracy theory with Pixar. This is fun and harmless,
Yeah.
you know. And so it's easy to say like, wow, it all makes sense, and they did a great job. And it's like somebody else is probably doing this in our own real world, and so it's just good to like see it in a fun way, but also translate it into our own world and go like, be careful.
Right.
There's tinfoil involved with these things.
No, I don't know. There could be a secret underground like base where there's someone working on the Pixar Theory on Pixar campus. Right?
And I did read in the
There's a
comment-
plant.
Yeah, there's a.
There was a comment that I read in the section going, I really hope if Pixar ever gets like they're not doing well and they're like Disney just absorbs them into
It just becomes
the
Disney
animation.
which honestly, it might.
and it's a possibility.
It might.
After a certain amount of years, the contract, I don't know what was in the detail of keeping them separate. That they may just get
one was
swallowed up.
making good movies, the other wasn't.
Yeah.
And now it's turning the opposite direction. Where like Pixar did animation's doing better than Pixar now.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it's like, all right, maybe it's time to transition them and just move on together.
And that's a possibility. But somebody said, like, if for whatever reason Pixar is going to dissolve, that Pixar does one last movie where it is the Pixar Theory, where they show you Boo going back and forth, and it all comes together.
Even if it was like a short, like, oh, it would be so good.
I would want like a 3-hour like intermission, like where you have to stop and go, what's going on? And then as you go in, you get 3D glasses and the tinfoil ears, like, I've been to Theoryland or something like that.
Right.
And just to say, like, thank you for being a fan, you know? And you just walk out going, that was amazing, beautiful, and, like, you get a finality.
And you'll get some fans that'll be like, it's not the theory that I subscribe to. And you know what? Just get over it. Just enjoy the ride and have fun with it. That's the... Yes, are there plot holes in everything that we've said today?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I could point out several plot holes.
I mean, anytime you throw in time travel and magic, you can kind of connect anything together.
Thing that explains everything explains nothing.
Right. And so just have fun with it. It's a fun thing, and it's something that even as adults that you can have fun with. This is one theory, one conspiracy theory that everyone can get behind.
I love it where I read in a comment where this guy was talking about his son getting into it. He was like 9 years old. He's like, Dad, you got to read this. And the dad got into it and he's like, I've been watching for 6 hours of different theories. It's like, it's amazing how your son or your kid can like suck you into something so innocent and be like, holy cow, I think he's onto something. Like,
yeah, just wait till we go down the rabbit hole about who's Andy's dad.
Oh, I saw that some of those videos,
Yeah,
and like
that's-
who's 22.
Oh yes, who did 22 become? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting.
So, I think that's a good place to take a breather. Take a break. If you want to dwell deeper into this, you totally can. There's a whole lot more than what we talked about.
Just watch your time.
It is a
And your
rabbit hole.
relationship.
It's funny because this was an idea that I think that you Japheth brought up, was like, yeah, let's do a Pixar Theory episode, and I knew it was gonna come on me, and I was all like, because I knew the most about it, and I was like, oh no, I'm not ready for this one. And then you guys started jumping in on it, and you're like, oh, this is big. I'm like, yes, it is big. And so I'm glad we finally got around to doing it, and I had fun. You guys had fun. Let us know what's your favorite part of the Pixar Theory? Have you heard of it? Have you heard a different variant?
Yeah, tell us any like new theories. I love those ones.
Yes.
The comment sections actually of these videos explain things better. People are like, "Oh, I really think this would be a better way of explaining it." And you're like, "Oh no, I totally agree." Like,
right. So yeah, let us know your own Pixar theories and how it might interconnect to Boo's story of trying to return to Sully.
Yeah. And actually, when I heard that, I was like, I got a little emotional.
It's
even more.
kind of sad.
Oh, we need concept art.
Of the witch and,
the witch and
Sully
Sully
getting back together.
Oh my goodness.
My heart.
Oh, that would be the best.
I'm sure there's a lot of
I'm
fan
sure
art
it
out there.
exists.
We should ask the person.
Yeah.
Haley. Like, what's her last name? Do you want to say?
We'll just
We'll
say
say Haley.
Haley.
Yeah, we'll say Haley. She did our new concept art, and like maybe we should like
If we get so many
requests,
yeah. If you want to see that, maybe
like
we'll...
Sully hugging the witch.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
That would be really
But
good.
it'll only happen if you leave us a comment.
Yeah.
Or give us a response or write a review.
Follow us on Instagram. Yeah, follow us on Facebook.
We've got a
comment,
Twitter.
Comment below if you want to see that.
Yes, let us know. If not, then you're just gonna have to wish and hope that it happened. But no, you have to.
You gotta wait till the movie comes out.
Watch someone else has already made it.
I know. It's already out there probably. But yes, thank you, and until next time, Auf Wiedersehen. Thank you for joining us on this week's episode of the Matterhorn Yodelers. Please remember before your bobsled comes to a complete stop to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And remember...
Remain seated, please. Permanecer sentados, por favor.